I'm excited to be here. Um, Thanks so much for DMing me, writing in, and letting me know what you wanted to hear me talk about. I really appreciate that. So we had a great response yesterday. It was very exciting to see the response to the concept of autoimmunity and its hidden tie-in with COVID-19. So some people wanted to know like foods to eat, things that may appear to be healthy. So today's conversation is going to be about 15 junk foods disguised as health foods. So many times people say, well, what I eat is healthy. Uh, Probably one of the most common comments I hear when people come in for a nutritional consult is, I eat well. And obviously, if they have a health issue, they're 20 or 30 pounds overweight, they really don't eat as well as they think. It may be a perceptional mechanism, it may be a defense mechanism, but unfortunately, they're just not eating what they think. And I understand that it's very confusing. Food labels are hard. Right now it's hard to understand what's good and what's bad. What does natural mean? What does organic mean? What does low fat mean? What does fat free mean? Are they healthy? Are they not? So we are without question going to talk about 15 junk foods disguised as health foods today. I think this will help you down a path of understanding what health is and how we can get healthier. Our food choices are a critical element. As I've said before, food is the potentiator for information to the body, health information. Bad food can be the potentiator for inflammation. So everybody needs to choose and choose wisely. So let's go through a couple of the different terms and everything of that nature. Number one, here it is, top of the list. Processed low-fat, fat-free foods. First of all, most people say low-fat and fat-free because they think fat is an issue. And as you've heard me say before, fat is not an issue. It is your friend, not your foe, especially certain kinds of fats, specific kinds of fat. Just because something is low-fat or fat-free doesn't mean it's not high in carbohydrates. As a matter of fact, it probably is. It doesn't mean it's not high in a bunch of chemicals, pesticides, sugars, all things that are very deleterious to your overall health. So I would recommend stop watching it in labeling. One of my patients gave me one of the best statements he ever heard. He said, if I have to read a food label and it's got all the list of all these things, something's got to be bad on it. So I'm looking for grass-fed beef. I'm looking for organic broccoli, a very small food label. And that made a lot of sense. If you'll notice these processed, the word was processed low-fat, fat-free foods, again, the famous U when you shape and you shop. The U shape when you shop is on the outside. Here on the periphery is where you're going to get the healthy food, and the inside is where you're going to get all the processed food. So processed low-fat, processed fat-free. Low-fat, fat-free, that was something that was common 30 years ago. Today's genre, today's fat is your friend, it's not your foe. We're going to talk in a little while about specific fats that are much better for you and the ones you want to avoid. Most commercial salad dressings, like I get it, salads are healthy, but the taste is a little boring. As a matter of fact, they're bitter. However, just as a little point of reference, if they're bitter, when you chew into a rhubarb or lettuce, the more bitter it is, it actually means that there's more phytonutrients. So why are there phytonutrients? What are phytonutrients? Nutrients that, if you will, are natural steroids. And I mean that as a joke, but these are nutrients that are great. They imbue the body with health. Now, the phytonutrients, they're going to give you not only health, but they're going to ward off a lot of free radicals. It's interesting in that they're bitter tasting. The real question is why? Well, the reason is as the fruit and the vegetable evolve, they want to protect themselves from insects and things that chew on them. So insects are always attracted to something that's tasty and sweet, like sugar. The phytonutrient, which has a bitter taste, nothing and nobody or any insect wants to touch it. But the more we taste those phytonutrients, that means the more nutrition we have. Having said all that, that's why people like to have a dressing, to gas it up a little bit, to make it tasty. The problem with a lot of dressings is, again, they're using a lot of processed foods. They're not using good ingredients. So if I'm going to use a dressing, extra virgin olive oil is a great choice. Organic balsamic vinegar. Those are going to be much better choices than the ranch and salad dressing. I can tell you one of the first things I used to do with patients, was take away their salad dressing. They would lose 200 to 300 bad calories every day, and that would make a wholesale change in their overall outcome. Fruit juices, interesting with fruit juices. They are basically liquid sugar. So a fruit juice, you're taking everything out that you need. Number one, you're taking out all the fiber. So that fiber, when you get that fructose, that sugar and fructose really blasts up your blood sugar. The fiber slows it down a little bit. In addition to the fruit, there's also nutrients. You may lose the nutrients after you make it into a juice in approximately 2 hours after the processing. So fruit juices are just sugar. I'm not a proponent of fruit juice, even though they taste really sweet. Heart healthy, whole wheat. Well, everybody knows that I'm not a real proponent of gluten. We've damaged our gluten. I don't have to do a dissertation. Since 1960, we've been making our gluten. We've done a really bad job. We're kind of grinding it all up. And wheat, gluten, it's very inflammatory to most people. There's people who have celiac disease. There are people who have gluten sensitivity. And then there's the rest of us who respond negatively to gluten. So gluten is not a great choice. And just because it's whole food, don't get swooped into the idea that it's really healthy for you. My favorite, one of my favorites now, non-organic coffee. It is not healthy. Organic coffee versus non-organic coffee. Coffee, non-organic coffee, is the most sprayed beverage in America today. Coffee is actually the most consumed beverage, 3.2 cups of coffee. The average American consumes per day. Pounds and pounds of coffee beans we consume as Americans all year long. Coffee is the third most sprayed item behind cotton and tobacco. So if you're drinking non-organic coffee, you are getting a plethora of pesticides. In addition to that, when you go into more of the commercial coffee shops like a Starbucks, now their coffee is known to be bitter. Dunkin' Donuts, their coffee's known to be bitter. They press them for a long period of time, and in the pressing of them, you now release acrylamide, which is just a heinous chemical. So for me, it's all about organic coffee because you're not going to get any pesticides. And I've got a big coffee statement, and I got something really exciting happening in coffee really soon that I'm going to share all with you next week. But for now, it's all about organic coffee. Margarine. I grew up margarine. My goodness, everybody was replacing butter with margarine. Margarine has what we call the worst fat, maybe the only fat that I would tell everybody to avoid, and that would be a trans fat. It's trans because it's like this, not a cross, but it's inverted. In that inversion makes it virtually impossible for most people to break it down. As Jack LaLanne said, if man makes it, I won't eat it. So margarine is man-made. Margarine over butter, I'm not a big butter fan, even the grass-fed. Yes, I'm not a dairy fan. However, you can have what we call clarified butter. That's butter heated where you lose some of the milk proteins, and ghee where it's cooked a little further and it gets that delicious nutty taste. So margarine or clarified butter and ghee, wholesale changes to go for the ghee and the clarified butter. Sports drinks, wow. I call that the hidden sugar spot. Sports drinks. So what are most sports drinks? Pretty weak on electrolytes, giving a lot of sugar. They only give one kind of sugar. So one thing on a sports drink, if you're going to consume carbohydrates, if you're that athlete who's using carbs to burn, I much prefer people burn fat, but that's for another day. If you're going to burn carbohydrates as a sports drink, you want multiple types. You want a mix of sucrose and fructose. And you want that mix because they're going to hit the body, they're going to hit the gut. Sugar goes to the gut first, and then if you take in too much, goes to the liver. So if you have these different pathways, they don't go sugar, sucrose, and fructose are at different speeds getting to the gut, so you're not bombarding the gut at the same time. You have a better chance of getting more carbohydrates in. However, athletes, they may work out hard. They may be burning on carbohydrates. Somebody like me, and many of my friends who do exercise, and as I know many of you exercise, and if you're not, get to it, carbohydrates may not be the best choice. So the sports drinks not only has sugar and plain sugar, it has coloring. It doesn't have the proper kind of electrolyte. So if you wanted a sports drink, it would be one of the ones like I recommend in my office. The one in my office has 30 calories or less with a cornucopia. of electrolytes. Electrolytes are a critical element. So when you exercise, you're not going to cramp and you're going to be able to recover post-exercise. In addition, you may want to consider a sports drink, an appropriate sports drink with branched-chain amino acids. Low-carb junk foods, that's exactly what they are. So now we're in the low-carb idea, high-fat, but low-carb may have a lot of pesticides, may have a lot of preservatives, may have gluten in it. So we want to avoid any of these specialty type items. They don't necessarily promote health. Agave nectar. I had gotten duped with agave nectar. I was like, yeah, it's honey, it's organic, it's natural, it's all this stuff. It is the biggest no bueno because people hear the word nectar or honey, and honey is healthy in small amounts. It's very medicinal. Agave nectar is 70 to 90% high fructose corn syrup during the process in which they go to the cactus and remove it. No agave nectar. It is just booming on the glycemic index. Vegan junk foods. The great example is vegan bacon. Well, first of all, I don't necessarily know that there is such a thing as a vegan bacon. Now, if you were to make a mushroom bacon, there's a couple of stores that I've gone into. When I say stores, restaurants, that we've been able to get a mushroom bacon. So it's mushroom made in the shape of bacon. Quite tasty. I use a nitrate-free turkey bacon. We can make the recommendation. I'll have somebody in the front come in and put it on the link. That's a great choice. But a vegan bacon is, again, it's fake food. It's done inappropriately, and I would avoid any kind of vegan bacon. I thought somebody was calling me to give me some information. I took a second to take a look. Brown rice syrup. It's rice malt syrup. Glycemic index of 98. If you're over 55 on a glycemic index, the glycemic index means the amount that what you consume raises your blood sugar. Over 55 is too high. One of the highest ones conceivable is rice malt syrup, which is 98. If you want to avoid any kind of weight gain, inflammatory issues, always keep your blood sugar levels low. Rice malt syrup will not enable you to do that. Let's talk about processed organic food. So many people say if it's organic, it's good. I'm one of those, but there's some processed organic food, such as, let's talk a little bit about it, organic raw cane sugar. It's sugar, folks. Let's decrease our sugar content. The average American's 160 pounds of sugar per year, 6.3 cups per week, 18 tablespoons per day. Men consume twice as much sugar as they should, women 3 times as much, and children, it is an astronomical fee. Let's relax. Let's get off sugar. Would organic cane sugar be better than regular sugar? Probably, but it's still a processed organic food. So don't be duped by organic. It can still be a high sugar content. It's just organic sugar. So it won't come to the pesticides, but still raises your blood sugar. I would avoid it. One of my pet peeves. One of my biggest pet peeves are vegetable oils. So what they did was they wanted to do animal versus vegetable, and they wanted you to think, because you hear the word vegetable, that a vegetable oil is healthy. Vegetable oils are not made out of vegetables. Let me say that again. Vegetable oils are not made out of vegetables. Vegetable oils are traditionally soybean oil, which is not healthy. Soybean oil is not healthy. Canola oil, it is a no bueno again. It's very high in omega-6s versus omega-3s. Omega-6s are extremely inflammatory. Canola oil is not a good choice. There are a lot of health restaurants now that say they cook with canola oil. I will not eat what they prepare with canola oil. So the soybean oil, the canola oil, non-starters, the grapeseed oil, another unhealthy choice. So what's healthy? Well, again, everybody knows extra virgin olive oil is a great choice. Very low melting point, so you have to cook on a very low flame. So as my friend said, he has his origins in Italy. His cousins and family members come, and they take 4 to 6 hours to cook a sauce because they keep the flame really low. It's not like in America, we turn the flame on, boom. And the reason they call it extra virgin olive oil, it's cold pressed. So olive oil is fine at a very, very low flame. However, it's much better to add after you cook something. Coconut oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil. At home, we use a lot of the George Foreman grill. I do not own stock in a George Foreman grill, and my wife's able to do it by using water. And on certain grills now, there was a technique and a trick that somebody shared with us. On the grill, we've used an onion and a lemon so the meat or whatever you're putting on the grill doesn't stick. Much better choices, much healthier choices. So again, you can use a little water on it like a George Foreman grill because it's not a real grill. On a real grill, you would want to use lemon or onion. Excellent choice, lemon or onion. And the real oils you would want to use is coconut oil, avocado oil, and the like. Much better choices. Avoid the soybean canola. No vegetable oils. Gluten-free junk food. Well, I am gluten-free, but if it says gluten-free, it's probably not healthy. There is no gluten-free on a good piece of grass-fed beef. There's no gluten-free on broccoli because we know it's gluten-free. If they're saying it's gluten-free, they're saying something's gluten-free because it could have had a cross-contamination, like an oatmeal, maybe a quinoa. In addition, it could also because they're not using gluten, but they're using something called a guar gum. They're using different devices, different ingredients that are actually making it stick together. The problem with gluten is not just the protein. The protein gliadin is a problem in that it's inflammatory and people are allergic to it, but it sticks just like gum. If you chew gum and you swallow it, we all know what happens. It's indigestible. So these gums that we're talking about, they actually pose a problem for the intestinal tract where 80% of our immune cells are, and it's where our macro and micronutrients are absorbed. And if we damage some finger-like projections in there, which are called villi, because the gum sticks on them, that poses a problem. So I'm not big on things that are labeled gluten-free. And a lot of these things are gluten-free junk foods. They've used a lot of poor ingredients, really bad choices. Something else, people said, yeah, I had a good breakfast. What did you have? Well, I had this cereal. You know, the cereal, it said it had all these vitamins and minerals. Most processed breakfast cereals have a high sugar content, no protein, and a lot of added processed ingredients. If man makes it, I won't eat it. That's a mantra that Jack LaLanne once said. I'd like to adhere to it. It's an excellent choice not to. If you wanted to have a cereal, well, if you got a gluten-free oatmeal and you ate a small amount, that would be great. A lot of people like chia seed pudding in the morning. It's not unhealthy. There is good quality fats. You can put chia seeds in there. You can add a gluten-free granola, have a little coconut milk. I'm not a great cook. Nevertheless, then you can have that. Porridges, gluten-free porridges, different, there's quinoa cereals, and again, a smaller amount because you want to have too many carbohydrates to start today. Let me see what we have in questions. We've got overprocessed vegan foods can be great for the environment, but not necessarily good for our bodies. Great point. Let me give you a like there. And I didn't say it before, but you know, we're 18 minutes into this. If anybody, please like this, comment, share it. Guys did a great job the other day on the talk. We're getting the message out. People are asking, they're engaging, they want to learn. Because, you know, in this time that we still have this ongoing health pandemic, the number one thing that I have patients ask me is, where do I go and who do I trust? And I get it, because I say the same thing myself. So I'm just going to put it out there. You guys can trust me, because I'm talking about health. I don't benefit from people getting unhealthy. I only benefit when people get healthy, because that's what I'm all about. So again, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, please feel free to reach out. We try and do one every day, sometime between 1 and 2. We've got some interesting topics to talk about tomorrow. And I can see that everybody's like, they got to get back to work. So here it is. Anything you need, let me know. Like, comment, share it. Please share this video with all your friends. My pleasure. Dr. Rob, always yours in health.